necessary for you all to know. When we say 14,001 2050, we are supposed to know what it was earlier, because every standard is subject to revision. What it is today, tomorrow is not going to remain the same. There has to be some improvement. If today is not a better for you what it was yesterday, my dear friends, we have not worked the other day. Take it for granted. Always target next day as a better day than what it is today. Exactly, the systems also demand it. Whatever the existing systems we have with us, there are almost 35 international standards for management systems which have been formulated by International Organization for Standardization, commonly known as ISO. 9001, the quality management system requirements, is nothing but the mother standard. We call it mother standard basically because this was the first standard which had been formulated by the International Organization for Standardization. Secondly, this is the standard on the basis of which other management system standards have been formulated. EMS, for which you all wish to undergo as an internal auditor trainee, is nothing but a derivative of ISO 9001 2015. Is a derivative of ISO 9001 2015. That is why it was the reason I had sent you all the three standards. ISO 9001 2015 quality management system requirements, ISO 14001 2015 environmental management system requirements, and thirdly ISO 19011 2018 is the most newly revised standard. Is auditing technique. Whatever is the management system, once the word, the requirements after the caption of the standard is, it means the requirements need to be verified. What does it mean? This means that this standard is applicable for certification. You cannot certify a guideline. Guidelines shall keep on changing. You cannot certify a method of test, but you can certainly certify requirements. So, my dear friends, let us go back the way these management system standards had been revised. It was all the more necessary for the people who had been handling these management system standards earlier. They felt that why can't a management system which is equivalent, maybe a system may be a different, but the way it has been framed in a standard, why can't it be similar? The effort has been put in by the technical committees of International Organization for Standardization, and it had been decided by ISO various technical committees that whatever be the standard for management system, let that be similar. Look, a system is applicable for all. Quality management system is applicable to you all. Quality management system is applicable to BMS College of Engineering. Environmental management system is applicable to you all. It is applicable at your home. It is applicable in the college. It is applicable in all the workshops. It is applicable in the next door laboratory also. Now, when it is applicable, considering the applicability of these management system standards, this becomes all the more necessary. This really becomes all the more necessary that the management system standards are similar in nature. A document was formulated by a technical committee of ISO, International Organization for Standardization, in the style of know it from me, NXSL is actually the annexer for special legislations to be followed by the various technical committees who formulate standards. And it had been decided by all the technical committees together that the way the standard has to proceed, the way the standard has to be formulated, the way the standard is to be constituted, are similar in nature. I really do not know whether you have gone through the standards of ISO 9001 and 14001, which I had sent to you all. If you go deeply through it, you will notice that the constitution of these two standards are similar. The way various clauses, the way various requirements have been taken into, should be taken into consideration that these are the applicable clauses. The clauses may be different. I will narrate all the clauses which shall appear in the revised standard, but the applicability and the requirements would be different. Earlier, the management system standards they used to be formulated by virtue of say 8 clauses, 10 clauses. Even there was a time when ISO 9001 had 20 clauses. Very difficult for the people who used to follow this. Very difficult for the people who used to train the people who are to follow ISO 9001, the earlier version. One thing very nice, please come in. One thing very nice which had happened, that all the clauses of this newly revised standard are really such a wonderful way, which once, in fact, when I talk to you about the way the standard has, please come in.
Sir, I want to interrupt, sir.
Who is the new imprint? You. What's your good name?
Megha.
Megha. Megha.
Yes.
DHA or GHA?
GHA.
Huh?
GHA.
DHA.
G.
Megha.
G for goat.
Acha, Megha. So, the way the revised standards have been formulated are such a wonderful methodology. It's really one thing very nice for you all to remember. Look, you have plenty of years to live in this world. The way the manage, I think for the 50 years hence, no one has to touch on these except, of course, a few amendments or the revision as the case may be. This is a life of at least 50 years. I can guarantee, though ISO does not guarantee this, but the way the standards have been formulated, and it had been decided cumulatively by all the technical committees of ISO, that the constitution of the standards should be similar. Should be similar. How? It was decided by an XSL. I gave you the definition of an XSL. A committee which has given the various required clauses for this very standard. Please remember, only you listen to me. You don't have to go through the standard what you are having presently with you, but simply listen to me. Later you can definitely correlate it with the standard available with you. Clauses. First, remember, the scope of the system. First clause is the scope. Second clause is normative references. Third clause is terminology. You need not write either, or everything is available in the standard. The first 3 clauses what I just referred to, you simply listen to me. the scope of the standard. Number 2, normative references. Number 3, terminology. These are the 3 clauses or the requirements of the system standard. These 3 do not need any requirement. Everything has been documented. Everything has been documented. What is the scope for environmental management system? You know it very well because you are going for it. Normative references, whatever the related references needed to see that the standard is effectively followed by the followers of this management system standard, number 1. Secondly, the references which need to be inculcated and need to be entered into the systems which you are going to follow. Very important. These are the normative references. The third clause is terminology. Any management system standard, it follows a terminology, a specified terminology. And there is a standard in the style of ISO 9000, 2015. ISO 9000, 2015, which talks about the various terminologies to be used in the management systems. So these are the 3 basic, the 3 first clauses of all the management system standards. This is applicable for EMS, this is applicable for QMS, this is applicable for OSHAs, this is applicable for food safety. This is applicable even for the standard to be brought out for social accountability also. So remember, these are the 3 clauses, first 3 clauses, which do not need requirements. So while these standards have to undergo certification, these 3 clauses need not be verified for the various requirements what it talks about. Got it? But now I am coming to a very, very important clauses where the requirements have been specified. The clause 4 talks about context of organization. Every organization has a specific context. BMS College of Engineering has a specific context. Any other institute, a laboratory, a workshop, they have a different context. And these standards are applicable for all. Whether it is a service providing industry or if it is an institute like BMS College of Engineering or a manufacturing unit, these standards are applicable for all. So, but the context of the organization is different. You cannot be compared. BMS College of Engineering cannot be compared with Airports Authority of India, Devanhalli, Bengaluru. No, cannot. Context is different. But the clause is one. This clause is applicable for all the standards. So when you shall be documenting the various requirements of the organization, you will have to specify what is the context of the organization. Got it? Very important clause, context of organization. Every organization has to have a leader. Do you agree? And without leader, an organization cannot run. So, leadership. The second clause is leadership. You call director or principal of BMS College of Engineering? You call director or principal. Whosoever is the top management or the leader of the organization. But all said and done, every department itself is an organization. Every department itself is an activity. Every department in itself is a function. Every department in itself is a process. Every process, every function, every department needs to have a leader. Dr. Prasanna Kumar, he is a leader for civil engineering department. So, once you have been able to define the context of organization, you will have to define who the leader is. In fact, all the management system standards, they in fact refer to top management. Top management means the person who handles the entire organization. In your case, it has to be the director of BMS College of Engineering. Once you have been able to identify a leader, simultaneously I'll also have to identify the leaders of the various processes, the leaders of the various activities, the leaders of the various departments, the leaders of the various functions. Their leadership needs to be counted in order to see that the department which is being headed by these leaders is effectively being run. And the responsibility of the top management is to see that the BMS College of Engineering is effectively run. So, the leadership. Next comes the planning. Once leader is there, who has to plan the activities of the entire organization or the entire department or the entire process? Again, the leader. Once you have been able to plan the activities which have to be followed or which have to be carried out for the days to come, how effectively is going to give you the right output what you have been desiring. This is planning. Every leader has to plan the activities of the process which is being done. Similarly, the top management has also to see that the organization is effectively being run in accordance with the system what we have laid down. Every organization has a system. Without system, no organization can exist. So once a leader has been identified, he has to plan the activities. After planning, what do you need?
Execution.
You planned it, but you need resources, don't you? You need sources to see that the way the activities have been planned are effectively being done. In older days, we used to call it 3M, men, machinery and money. Yes, these are the resources needed. So it is the leader who is planning the activities have to identify what are the resources needed. Without resources, can you carry out the activities? Once you have been identified the activities to be done, you have planned it and you have known what the resources needed. Once resources have been provided to you, who is responsible to provide you the resources?
Leader.
Top management. It's the top management who has to provide you the resources. Once you have been able to see that the resources needed by you have been acquired by you, and the top management has been able to provide you effectively all the resources, what is your job as a performer? You're all performers. Do you agree? You're all performers. Every performer has to carry out performance, the operation. And once you have been able to identify the plan, you have been able to receive the resources, you have to find out what are the operations to be carried out. So the next activity is clauses operation. Now, once you have been able to identify the operations, what you have to concentrate on? Performance. That's it. Once you have been able to identify the planning, the activities, the performance of each performer and the performance of each process, need to be taken into consideration. And once you have been able to carry out the performance, you have got a plenty of data how good you were as a performer. Have you been able to carry out all the activities what you as a performer you had been identified to carry it out? You could have done it, you might not have done it, you might have failed to get the required output, or it may so happen that the resources needed to carry out this activity was not available to you, or it may also happen that we have done a wonderful job. You are a wonderful performer. Once you have been able to carry out a job effectively, the top management will say, you have done a very good job. Once you have done the job, there is someone to evaluate it. The evaluation of performance. Once the performance which has been carried out by the various performers need to be evaluated. And by virtue of evaluation, you will be able to know how good you have been able to carry out the activities what have been identified in the laid down systems to receive the right output. Why always I am saying output? Because output is your target. Output is your target. Let me make one thing very clear, that any organization who takes a responsibility to hold or carry out the activities in accordance with the management system standards has two things in common. Every organization, two things in common. Number one, customer. Every organization has a customer, and every organization has customer is a requirement. Okay, every customer, in order to see that you receive the inputs to satisfy the customers need to be identified. BMS College of Engineering, what is the product? Product is another amenity which need to be identified. BMS College of Engineering, does it produce something?
Human resources.
Does it produce something? Does it produce something?
Yes.
What is that? Huh?
Human resources as graduates.
Graduates. BMS College of Engineering produces graduates. Very good answer, very good answer. Who is the customer? Huh? Who is the customer? Look, you are the product. Who is the customer?
Society.
BMS College of Engineering, who is the customer? Society is the customer. You are all needed by the society. You will be here for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. After that, are you going to remain in the BMS College of Engineering all through your life? Society needs you. The society is the customer. You are the product. Every organization has to have a product. Every organization has to have a customer. And product need not be something which is visibly seen. Not necessarily. Services. Hotels. They provide services. Can you visibly see the services what is being provided to you by the hotel owners? No, but it's the services. Services and the products, in the words of management systems, the same thing. Organization may provide services. Organization may produce something if there is a manufacturing activity within the organization. Once you have been able to evaluate your performance, are you not going to look into this, that how best the performance which has been evaluated would be able to affect the improvement of the existing system within the organization? This is improvement. So, my dear friends, any management system standard need to have these 10 clauses, and these 10 clauses are similar for all the management system standards what you are going to have it either today or say 2 years hence or 5 years hence or even 10 years hence, because there are more than 35 management system standards which need to be revised by international organization for standardization. So this was in fact a basic overview. I wanted to give it to you so that any standard you go for, any management system standard you go for, you should be able to know what are the basic requirements of these very management system standards. I repeat again, first is the scope of the standard. Number 2, normative references. Number 3, terminology. 4, context of organization. Next, leadership. Next, planning. Next, resources. Very good. Then, operations. Then, performance evaluation. Having evaluated your performance, try to find out how best you can use your talent, your training, your effectivity to improve the system. This is the target for all the management system standards, my dear friends. So take it for granted. You see, any management system standard which has been revised, if you go through, you'll find only these very clauses. That is why I thought, instead of going through the standard vividly, I must tell you the way these standards which have been revised and now formulated for your use, all are in a similar manner. That is how ISO has been able to formulate a standard for conducting audit. It's known as auditing technique. ISO 19011 2018 is a standard which talks about how to conduct audit for the various activities the organizations are carrying out. And one thing very nice that earlier I remember, see, I'm with the management system since 1992. I'm one of the oldest lead auditor in the country today. I'm more than 72 years. But the day ISO had entered in the arena of our country, India, 1992, I'm lead auditor since then. And I've been able to see the way these standards had been formulated, had been developed, had been revised, had been amended, and ultimately the 2015 version is with us. So thank you all very much. Any question if you have about this, about these 10 clauses, please you can ask me. Thank you.